Hey guys, welcome to Headspace Live with Christian Ray Flores. I have a very special episode prepared for you today. We have Justin Donald, best-selling author, a good friend, author of the book Lifestyle Investor. We're going to talk a lot about finances, lifestyle, all kinds of other things. I'm very excited to have him on, and I have Brandon Nicely, my buddy, with me as well. So we're going to have a meaningful conversation in just a second. As always, leave your comments in the comment section. We try to answer every single one of them. Here we go. All right. Welcome, guys.
Hey, good to be here.
Justin, man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it very much. And we've known each other for some time here and there. I think who was it? Is it John? It's John who introduced us, right?
Yeah, John and Tatiana.
John and Tatiana of Roman. Yeah, they're
Yes,
awesome people.
wonderful people. Yeah, we attended one of your church maybe a couple times with them,
Uh-huh.
and just loved it. Loved you. Thought the world of you and your gifts and abilities and talents, and we hit it off just naturally. I feel like we had so
Yeah,
much in common, and
true.
love relationships, love people, love impact, and so yeah, we became fast friends.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It means a lot. So you came before we dive into the whole lifestyle investor thing, which is fascinating. I'm very excited about. I just learned because I was listening to some of your stuff that you went to the country of Georgia, which is not a common place for people to go.
That's right.
Not the
That's right.
state, but the country, right?
Yeah, when I tell people I went to Georgia,
Yeah.
I mean, what I try and say, I mean, at first I was having fun. I'm like, I went to Georgia, and people are like, oh, Atlanta.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I went to the Republic of Georgia, and people are
Yeah.
like, oh, is that what they're calling part of the state? I mean, people really have
They have no
no
idea.
clue.
They have no idea. Yeah.
They don't. And the country is just lovely. I mean, the people are amazing. We ate some of the best
Isn't
food
it?
I've ever
Yes.
had. It
Uh-huh.
was great.
I keep saying that to people. Deb and I go literally every 2 years because we mentor a couple there and who leads a church there, and we every couple of years, and we take our kids. We love Tbilisi. It's just
Yes,
it's an enchanted place, and it's ancient, like literally one of the original winemaking countries on the planet Earth.
that's right.
And the food is fantastic, right? Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
That's right. Well, and we went to a chateau there. I think it's called Pheasant's Tears, and
Uh-huh.
the guy John who started, an incredible guy. I'm going to have him on my podcast. But this is a place, as you said, where wine. It's one of the earliest places, and by many of the records
Yeah,
there, they would say wine originated there in the Republic of
originated there.
Georgia.
Yeah. Hmm.
And it's neat because now that chateau, Pheasant's Tears, is being featured on Noma's wine list. The number one rated restaurant in the world
Is that right? Whoa.
has wine from the Republic of Georgia. Super cool. I'm going there this summer, this August. We're
Oh,
gonna
you
go to
are?
Copenhagen.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah. So maybe we'll coincide one of these days because we go quite often, every second year probably on average. And the other thing that I love about Georgia is, well, is the people. It's just they're so warm, so musical. Like people just they have this sort of multi-voice tradition of singing that like I don't know what I mean they get it from the air, I think, from the ether. But people like in a restaurant, we were on this beautiful ancient house on the hillside in a restaurant. We were on the balcony, and then some guys showed up like hanging out, like four guys. They were hanging out and eating, and they brought their guitar, like a guitar, and they eat a little bit, and then they smoke a cigarette, and then they break out into these insanely gorgeous songs, and then they stop, and then they eat some more, and then they have a cigarette, and then they break it. And so my girls, my wife and my daughters were like, oh my gosh, this is a free concert. There's so much of that color and richness of culture in Georgia. I just love that country. I really, really do.
totally agree. And if you can get off the beaten path, we took a helicopter ride to the
Did you?
vineyards,
Oh my
and
gosh.
that area was just beautiful. Well, actually, we went up to the mountaintops to
Uh-huh.
the Caucasus mountain range.
Yeah.
So right there, that border of Russia and Republic of Georgia.
Yeah.
And so we saw, basically where you kind of go through the mountain. So we were like right up there at the border of those two countries. And there's a
Right.
lot of animosity right now between those
There
countries.
is, yeah.
A lot of
There is,
fear
yeah.
that,
Mm.
Russia's going to come and
Take
try to
over.
conquer them again. Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
But it's just like on these mountains, like they have these cool hotels and these cool experiences, all these, monasteries that are just, out in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere, but on a mountaintop. It's gorgeous. And then to helicopter from the mountaintops over all the mountains, what would be like a 5-hour drive. We get there in like 25 minutes to this gorgeous chateau and
Okay.
spend the rest of our time in this, really cool wine region. Before we
Okay,
head
so
back to
I'm doing that
Tbilisi.
next time for sure,
Yes,
100%.
I can give you all my notes. It's
Please
amazing.
do. Please do it. And the cool thing is that the locals literally make their own wine.
Yes.
Like you go
In their
this is-
basement.
yeah, in their
Yes.
basement. So like somebody meets us at the airport and they're like, "Hey, by the way," and it's like they recycle these whatever Fanta bottles, like of whatever beverage they wash them out, and then they have this home wine they present to
That's
you,
right.
and it's theirs. They made
right.
that wine, and it's super special and personal.
And I should rephrase, it's not always basements. It's like, they would dig down the ground, so it
Yeah.
feels like a basement, but a lot of the homes are just one level.
Yeah,
But, they bury these clay pots. It's pretty neat.
yeah. I think they export those pots
Oh,
because they're massive. They're like the
Yes.
size of half this room.
That's right.
Yeah, so they export them, and it's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. The original way to age wine. And they've got some really cool things.
So is it good? Like, are we talking white or red here? I think you brought me back
Well-
both, actually. I think from last time when you were there.
They actually have an orange wine. I
Yeah,
mean,
really?
it's like it's called an amber, I think.
yeah, an amber. It's
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's really cool. So yes, they have white, they have red, but like what they're known for is this amber wine that basically sits in all the skins for a period of time, a year plus. So you look at it and you think, oh, this is going to be a light-bodied wine, but because it's been in the skins the whole time, it is really full-bodied. It's pretty
Wow.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's awesome. Well, I think Brandon is now convinced that he's going to come next time.
You should.
in
Yeah,
January.
I wanted to go last time, just didn't work out. But
Well,
after I saw the pictures and it was fantastic.
Yeah, from the U.S., you can connect in Istanbul. A bunch of carriers take you there, so another great, chance to check out another cool city.
True.
true
I do
melting
love
pot there.
Istanbul.
So yeah,
Good times there. Yeah. Cool.
That's awesome. Well, so let's move on a little bit to the lifestyle investor. I think here's what I wanted to ask you. You are known as the guy who teaches people, who mentors people how to create financial freedom and but the value point of that is not to make money. The value point is what kind of life do you want, right?
that's right.
Can you tell me like the broad strokes of that? Because I find that to be, first of all, refreshing, encouraging, and it sort of creates a lens around decision making that is quite unique, and I really like it. I'm attracted to that. Brandon and I, have started businesses together, and we always say that we're like, this is a lifestyle business, right? This is not to be X, Y, and Z. This is for us to be able to do the things we love to do.
Yeah, I love that. I love being able to start a business and ideally keep the business focused on the reason you started it. Sometimes, businesses get a mind of their own, or people, they kind of change their perspective on what they ultimately want it to do, and personalities and desires kind of change. But the thing that I have learned is most people spend more money than what it costs them to live, right? I think the data shows that. Most people, utilize debt to do this. Most people don't love what they do, but they keep doing it anyway. The younger someone is, easier to abandon ship. You have a family, it's harder to make that pivot. And so it's not that people don't want a chance to like do something different. It's that they're afraid to do it. They get, they become a slave to comfort and security and safety and just knowing the output. Like I put in this many hours, I get this type of a paycheck. I understand the work. I'm relatively competent in the work. But the sacrifice there is most people aren't alive and passionate about what they do. So it is possible to just jump ship and pursue what it is that you love. Most people just won't do that. So what do you need to do? You got to solve the financial equation. What's that? Well, it costs me this much money to live. Figure out, what does it cost to live on a monthly basis, at least survival income. So not fancy lifestyle, just how much does it cost me to live? From there, you can say, hey, what is my actual lifestyle? What does it currently cost me today on a monthly basis, not annually? Monthly makes it a lot more realistic, a lot more manageable, right? But the thing is, once someone is able to solve for that and they're able to create, buy assets, create the income to cover it, well, then the playbook opens. And then people can really focus on what it is that they really want to do. Now they have permission to say, okay, I'm bored over here, or, I need a new challenge, or I don't have to be here just to pay the bills. And people can truly figure out what it is that they want to do. So can you do that anyway? Can you carve out the time and get intentional to say, hey, what do I want my life to look like? Sure. Most people don't do it. And most people won't do it until that financial equation is solved for. But once it's solved for, everything changes. And now, instead of having to work, you get to work. And if you get to work, you get to figure out what you want to do and what that cadence of workflow is like. How many days a week do you want to work? How many hours a day? Do you want to take time off? How much time do you want to take off? Do you want to take a month off in one fell swoop? Or, are you working on a project that really is inspiring and you want to work on it, 4 consecutive days? So for me, I just wanted that cadence that was aligned. Like, I love working. I can never not work and be retired. That sounds miserable.
You get to work, right?
Yes, basically. I get to work. And I get to work a schedule like a Tuesday to Thursday, beautiful schedule where I just work in the afternoon, or maybe 11 to 4. And that's wonderful. And I have extended weekends to spend time with family and friends. And that for me is perfect. That's not perfect for everyone, but for me, that really is in alignment with how I want to live life.
That's remarkable. That is, I'm tearing up. I'm going, oh, makes me feel so good right now. So most people will respond to that, listening to this and going, yeah, easy for you to say. Like, the most self-defeating words in the English language, easy for you to say, in my opinion, right? Yeah. And yet we have the feeling, we have that visceral response, because we're trapped in the rat race. We're trapped in the spending, in the debt. And it's just hard to make money for most people. Yep. So most people might go, easy for you to say. And even if they don't do that, if they don't feel that, they might say, well, you, Justin, are the guy, the dude. You are gifted. You are, you have the magic touch. I don't have the magic touch. Can you, for those of us who would feel that way in the audience, can you say, okay, here's my starting point, and I'm just like you, and I can relate, and in broad strokes say, how can you go from that place to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's more a commitment than anything. It's not that, people think that I have all these gifts in the investment standpoint. I actually wouldn't say that I'm overly gifted on investing. I mean, I've done very well with it. I actually think I'm gifted in relationship building, and I get access to really good investments because of the relationships that I have. And over the years, I've gotten good at investing, but it's not what I'm world class at. And in fact, the way I've gotten good at investing is because I've lost a lot of money. Like, I've made a bunch of mistakes, but I'm just an average kid who went to an average high school, who had parents that struggled to pay the bills. My mom worked, most of my life as basically a secretary at 2 different churches. And my dad at one point sold appliances, at another point sold cars, at another point fixed appliances. And so, it's not like my parents had these amazing jobs. It's not like our network was this incredible network. I mean, I had to find, it was hard for me to find entrepreneurs in the networking ecosystem that I was part of growing up, but I knew I needed to find them. I knew that was something that, I knew I was wired that way, and I needed to find my people. And so, one of my closest friends, his dad was actually a business owner. And that was like my first, I guess, glance into what that was like. But my whole youth, I don't know that there was more than one person that I ever figured that out from. And most everything else I just got from books. I mean, we didn't have podcasts then. So literally I went to the library, I rented I checked out, rented, I guess back then we'd call it rented books. And that was it. I mean, I was self-taught.
Did you have, I'm just curious, did you have like an inciting moment or incident that sort of started you down the path? Because we all have sort of this diversion. I'm like you, I'm the first one to go to college, and certainly a diversion from the past there, the environment that I grew up in. But I think there were some elements of some college that sort of opened my eyes to new possibilities, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so for me also, I was the first person to graduate from college in my family and my extended family. I mean, you take the whole family tree out and follow it down, and somehow I was the one to figure it out.
I can relate. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool though, right?
Yeah, it is. It's really neat. And so I had a pretty cool experience at the University of Illinois, which back then was really known for being a strong business school and engineering school. I went to business. I couldn't have hung in engineering. I had friends that did that, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm glad I didn't pick that as a major.
Same here.
I'm not built for that."
Yeah.
But I did start in accounting, and I learned, I am not an accountant. I need to pivot. This is not my thing. And thank goodness.
First lesson, right? I do not want to do this, right? Yeah,
thank goodness.
Absolutely.
I'm just glad I didn't give up on business and finance. Because I did find that there's tons of adjunct professors, at least when I went there, that were masters of their craft that they brought in to teach. So it's way different than, having someone that's teaching like, here are the 10 marketing concepts for this thing. I mean, these are actually very successful people. My real estate courses were taught by the most successful real estate investor in the city. And my wealth management course was taught by, one of the wealthiest alumni of the University of Illinois that was very successful at what he did. My, I had an investment class that was arbitrage theory. And, the professor there actually was a trader and had this thing with us that anytime we found some sort of merger, acquisition, or spinoff that he liked, he would put up the money and split the profits 50-50 with us. So like real deal people.
That's remarkable.
I got selected out of, really the whole business school for, one class of just a handful of people. I think there were somewhere between 15 and 20 of us. They got to manage $1 million of real money from one of our alumni. And we became traders for that year. And we did a great job, made the guy money. And it was a really cool experience. So I learned early on, like, all this stuff's really cool. I like money. I like time value of money. I like, investing. I like this whole, like, I feel like most people, they're not even good at making money. So if you can actually be good at making money, you're kind of in a league of your own. But the people who are good at making money are not good at managing money.
That's
right. And then
Absolutely.
Those that, once you have money, whether you figure out managing or not, you outsource it. Very few people are good at multiplying money. And that really, I think, is where I kind of fell into kind of like a tier of just a small percentage of people that actually was able to figure that out, which is neat. I like to teach that. But once you figure out how to compound wealth, the most exciting thing is when you can actually make money matter. So for me, that is really the cool part about it, because, there's only so much you can consume. And if you consume too much, it is not good. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for your family. It's not healthy for you.
That's right.
To make more money is like, it can be detrimental. But set up the right way to make more money means you can also have more impact. And I think that's important. And I think if we can't get to a point where we're radically generous with our wealth at every level, by the way, at every level, then money is likely in a place that has too much control and influence over us. It's the, the thing that most people chase.
Yeah. It's the idol. Yeah.
Including family, including faith.
I agree. I totally agree with you. So I really want to visit that whole generosity piece, but let's put a pin on that. But I would love to sort of roll back and go, okay, what are your first steps? I know that you started with trailer parks, I think, and that was not even on your radar before. First of all, how did you start? And then did you sort of stick with this thing that let's say trailer parks or real estate or whatever, or did you sort of evolve? Did you find your niche, or did you sort of expand from that? And how do you help other people do the same thing, take those steps, just like you did?
Great questions. I mean, for me, I'm a big believer that if someone else has done it, I can copy what they've done.
Exactly.
And I can get, 70% of the results that they get if I become really good at what they do, if I actually have a blueprint. And so that's my belief. So I remember I had a friend that was in single family homes, and he's like, man, these are way harder than I thought they were going to be. I'm not making as much as I want. It takes a lot of energy and effort. You know, the overhead's a lot. I'm going to sell them all. I'm going to buy a mobile home park. And I thought that was crazy. I was like, what are you talking about, man? You know, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, he ended up needing some money to help buy one. And so I lent him some money, and these things did really well. And, you know, he gave me a return, just a fixed return. You know, I was kind of acting like a bank. And I was like, wait a minute, these financials are really good. I should probably be doing this. Why am I lending you money? I could be buying them. And he's like, I know, you totally should. And so I started learning how to do it. And the very first park I bought, in that single transaction, the profit that we made on that first deal was more than, well, it was actually, it was within $1,000. It was less than $1,000 of what my wife was making as a high school teacher. And ironically, she taught personal finance and business and all that. And so in one transaction, we were able to buy her time back. She was able to retire. And that's really when we started our family. We had our daughter shortly after that. And so my wife never had to work. She got to work, and she worked in the business with us for a period of time. And then she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And that served our family really well. We got on the same schedule, and it was nice. And
so I love that you measure a business move with a lifestyle shift. And I think that's a huge thing I want everyone to sort of pay attention to. Is when we did this, we bought my wife's time back specifically. And then the next thing we bought, I think you mentioned there was like your burn rate or your survival rate. Was that,
right.
Was that, yeah?
Yeah. The next park covered our survival. So what it cost us to live on a monthly basis, we were clearing with these two parks.
And then after that, the next move was a lifestyle shift. You could,
That's right.
you know, and I just love that you measure it this way. And I feel it seems to me that it's a very healthy and very inspiring, and yet also very practical way to measure and motivate, right?
Most certainly. I mean, it was wonderful because I knew that it could be done. I knew other people had done it. Therefore, if I am a student of the business, that I should be able to figure out how to be, you know, a percentage of as good, as skilled as they are. And over time, you know, better. But what it also, I mean, it allowed me to be calculated in the way that I transitioned from, you know, working this business to being able to step away from this business. And I've never had a huge exit. I mean, we sold the rights on one of our businesses, but it was super small. I mean, teeny tiny transaction. So we've just basically been singles and doubles, but we would always figure out kind of targets and, you know, in order to hit lifestyle, you know, it would cost this per month. Let's build the passive income. And for me, I worked hard. I saved, you know, money over a long period of time to make big transactions. So it may not look like what I did. For those of you listening, I just had someone on my podcast, and he said, I remember my first passive deal. I made enough to cover my Netflix account, right? So my monthly Netflix was covered. And I was like, this is great. I'm on the right path.
That's awesome.
You know, for some people, it's like, hey, you know, I did this investment and it covered my utilities. And then I did another one and it covered my car payments. And then another one and it covered my mortgage. So it may not look like what mine looked like, but, you know, as you kind of play it out, you can create your own path, and it's not as scary or daunting as it seems. Like what it costs you to live on an annual basis, that's a little more daunting than just like, what is it per month? Okay, let's break it down and let's figure out how we can get there. And I just love teaching people how to do it. We have so many people in our community now. I mean, we have over 100 people directly in our community that, you know, have now experienced financial freedom, you know, through following these steps. But it's in the thousands now in the greater network, which is cool. We get, you know, email testimonials or, you know, things posted on social, and it's really exciting and inspiring. Because for me, I can only do it one time. Well, I mean, what I should say is hopefully I don't mess it up to the point that I need to do it again. Right. But in theory, I do it once, and it's a really cool feeling, and it's amazing, but it's not as good. Like if you think life is about that, and you're going to be let down, because it's really not. Like for me, it's way more enjoyable to celebrate with people in our community that achieve it. Because new people just keep hitting it. And so you get to keep reliving it, and it's fun.
So how can somebody join? I guess like I'm listening to this. I am either 20 something or maybe I'm 40 something. I'm going, you know what? This is not fun. Is it too late? Is there a too early or too late for someone who wants to learn from you?
So I would say that it's not too early or too late. I mean, you could give an extreme example on either end where that may be the case, but to start your education wherever you are, it's never too late or too early for that. So whatever that looks like. And, we got all kinds of free stuff. I mean, we've got, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 different, downloadable products for free. So anyone can literally start wherever they want. We've got different price points in terms of, master classes and courses and masterminds. And, a lot of our masterminds, they're a lot higher end. Our goal is to appeal to, kind of an outlier type of crowd, a successful entrepreneur or highly paid, executive or someone on the, corporate or professional side, but it's primarily entrepreneurs. And, we're waitlisted on that. And we probably will be for a little while, because the goal is not to make it the biggest group in the world. The goal is to have just an amazing and exclusive group that everyone can get to know everyone. So it's generally not the right fit for most people, but we've got products that are the right fit for anyone.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And what's a great URL to find you?
Oh, just lifestyleinvestor.com. You can find anything that we do there, from
perfect.
book to podcast to blog to courses, master classes, you name it.
So I have a quick question, Justin. How much of your sort of approach has to do? I'm assuming you probably have real estate, and you've got maybe market investments or some other thing. There's a bunch of, I come out of the tech world, and I've had a big exit actually. But one of the challenging things was how to keep your money. How do you make your money pay for you, right?
That's
and
right.
So and often I found that unfortunately, I found the negative way that if you give it to somebody that may not be looking after your interests, you can lose your money, right? So
That's right.
Nobody's going to watch your money like you do, right? And so I think there's this active sort of management style, but I'm curious kind of how you would sort of illustrate the landscape of investments that you sort of get involved in.
Yeah, I think it's important, number one, not to outsource your financial education and literacy. I did that early on. I paid for it. I had people put me in products where they were making higher commissions and fees, and they were products that they wouldn't have actually done themselves. And I remember the statements made me think that I was making more money than I really was. There was a manipulation in the way that, average return was measured as opposed to actual return. It's quite deceptive once you really dig down into it. But the irony for someone like you, Brandon, that's had a big exit is you go from, you basically are now the wealthiest you've ever been, but you don't feel it. You actually feel like you have the least money, because it's like, well, if you're losing money or, you can't expense your lifestyle. So it's like the bank account just dwindles every week, every month. And so the people in our community that this happens to, we've got to do some mindset work with them and, help them create the passive income to cover their life, so they're not in this place where the money is decreasing. And so a lot of what we talk about is how, if you look at the wealthiest people, take a look around the world. But by the way, this morning I was studying JP Morgan's newest report on, single family offices, which are, the wealthiest people who spend anywhere from $3 million to $10 million on a team and a staff that manages their wealth. Right. So, and all these, there are tons of groups that do this data, but what you'll see is most people make their money via concentration, but they actually preserve and grow their wealth via diversification. And the vast majority of where they put their money is in inefficient markets. So the stock market is as efficient of a market as you're ever going to find. It's hard to make money. It's hard to be a day trader. You can bank on long-term, the success of the U.S., economy. But you can also do that inexpensively in, an index fund versus paying someone who is actually 95 to 96% likely to underperform that said index and cost you more money. It's a really weird, world of money management. But I say all that because, this report today basically talked about how 46% of the wealth or the asset allocation of these ultra wealthy, demi-billionaires and billionaires, basically is in alternative investments, which is much different than what most people think. Only 26% was in the stock market. And so, if you study this, then you actually learn, well, the wealthy people have a different playbook. I heard that wealthy people put all their money in the stock market, but the more you learn, you're like, well, why would you ever put all your assets in any single place? Even for entrepreneurs, it's a lot of risk to have all your money in your primary business. But most people put all their money back into their business, all their profits, versus, hey, let's diversify. The wealthiest people in the world diversify. They don't have too much in any single category or too much in any single deal.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the ability, no matter what the economic environment is, to make money. They have something. Maybe something isn't making money, but they have things that outweigh it, that overall the portfolio makes money.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I have you for another 5-6 minutes, and I want to sort of land the plane here with an unusual question, for sort of, unusual in contrast with wealth creation, and that is giving it away. So I know that you believe in radical generosity. You talk about tithing. Brandon and I believe in tithing as well. Explain the logic of tithing, of giving away money as a discipline, and as a lifestyle.
Well, I think first and foremost, if you look at what we have, anyone in the U.S., we have way more than virtually the rest of the world. So we're all, a top 3% of the world based on what we make. You could make the argument 2%, even for like lowest income workers. So we're very wealthy by that standpoint. But I also think that the more you give, there's just there's a grip. If you can't give, there's a grip that basically holds you down, and it limits your abilities and it limits your potential in so many ways. And I think when you can give freely, at least a portion of what you make to do great in the world, there's a lot of abundance that comes from it. And not that like, oh, I give so I get, but more just like freedom of the mind, freedom of thought, freedom of not being controlled by money. And that to me, I think is huge. And if you really drill down and you figure out how to, cover your minimum, your survival income or your lifestyle income, let's just say lifestyle income, everything above and beyond that is surplus income. So most people work hard to save 10, 15, 20%. Well, when you're in surplus income, 100% can go towards building wealth and having impact, right? I mean, that's a really cool thing. You can go well beyond just, giving 10%. But you can also do it in a way where you have it in entities, you have it in funds and trusts and whatever it is, where all that money can go there to grow in, in many cases, a more efficient environment, from a tax standpoint, even.
Yeah.
And it can compound. And, I spent time with David Green, founder of Hobby Lobby. And that guy's one of the most amazing guys in the world. Gives away 50% of everything Hobby Lobby makes every single year.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
that's remarkable.
The last few years, he's literally given away billions. Like last year, he gave away over $1 billion.
That is remarkable.
Think about that, right? But they have these structures where no one's ever going to own it. They're just stewards of it.
Yeah.
All their kids, all their grandkids, they're all involved. Everyone knows they're not going to get it, but they're in charge of making sure that they grow it and that it's going to good use, that it's being delivered to the right organizations.
That's remarkable. So let me pivot just a little bit. I have like 3 minutes left with you. I love the word philanthropy because it's rooted in the Greek loving people, right? And yet philanthropy is usually associated with the wealthy. And yet the habit of giving, of tithing and giving sacrificially, giving so it hurts a little bit, it's a discipline that is really, philanthropy is within reach of anybody, right? Like I remember, I think I heard you sort of discuss that when the bigger the number, you think it's going to be easier when you have the money. It's not easier, actually,
right.
Because it hurts more. You don't have the habit. You don't have the muscle. I
That's
remember
right.
when I sort of first started tithing, and then I was in show business at the time. So I got this big commercial like across 15 different countries for Head and Shoulders. For very ironically, that's the thing that people look up now, and not like the actual music, which is a little bit annoying, right? But it's because of the hair in slow motion. But I remember getting a big paycheck, and for the first time going, "Wait, I'm tithing on this."
Right.
And it was hard, but
Right.
because I already had the conviction, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this, and it felt so good. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that what you create in your life, the release that you have over money, by being able to do that, just opens you up to be in such a better position to capitalize on other things. And I mean, mentally, physically, spiritually, it's the game changer. It really is. It's your discipline. It's like, you know, to be in shape, to be fit, you've got to have the discipline to go to the gym and watch what you eat. And there is a reward for that. And at the beginning, it doesn't feel like it. It just hurts. But with giving, it's the same thing. Like sometimes at the beginning, it hurts. And it's like, oh man, there's so much I can do with this money. But when you see what the money does and you see the impact that it can have, and David Green says, if you really want to become great at giving, find the thing that breaks your heart and give to that.
Wow.
And so for me, it was easy. I thought about like, what's the worst thing that could ever happen to me? And it's, human trafficking, something happening to my family in that realm. And I was like, that's where I'm going to give. I'm going to give all the profits of our book, which, I didn't know how big it was going to get, but it's Lifestyle Investor is now a top 1% of all books ever written in terms of volume as of last year.
Great. Congratulations. That's great.
Which is cool. And so, all that money goes to fight, these different efforts, against human trafficking. And I feel so good about it. And I see what's happening with it, but it also it softens my heart. I feel like it makes me more real. It opens me up to just seeing the world a different way, seeing money as a tool in a different way, not just to create more, not just for consumption, but to be able to create more for impact. I mean, it's changed everything for me.
Wow. Beautifully said. And there's no better way to close this conversation. Justin Donald, you're the best. I appreciate you very much, and you're a good man, and you're an inspiration. So please go to lifestyleinvestor.com. If you're listening to this and you find value, go to christianrayflores.com, and you can get updates every week on conversations like this, posts, and everything we find of value in your inbox every Sunday morning, as a matter of fact. So thanks again for being on, Justin. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to get time with you as always, Christian. Brandon, great to spend time with you as well.
Thanks, Justin.